Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Law, SOL, Diploma in Paralegal Practice, DIPP, BLE 004 Rural Local Self-Governance, Block-1 Constitutional Framework, Unit 1 Structure and Composition, Unit 3 Powers of Panchayats, 3.1 Introduction, Panchayats, as constitutional entities, play a significant role in implementing decentralized democracy. Not only are they the seats of political representation, closest to the people, they also serve as crucial links with governments at the state and central levels. Hence, the functioning of panchayats in accordance with constitutional ideals is crucial to the process of decentralization. After the passage of the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments, local bodies are expected to take over quite a number of governance functions. They have to take over the administrative duties, perform planning function and work towards the socio-economic development of the local population. To carry out their functions effectively, PRIs need to have control over their resources, both financial and human. They should also have the authority to raise necessary financial resources by levying of taxes, tolls, cess, etc. For decentralized governance to become a reality, it is necessary and important that panchayats are not only conferred powers and authority, but also need to be given sufficient financial resources and be empowered to generate necessary financial resources through taxes and levies. In this unit, we will learn about the scope of the powers and consequent responsibilities conferred on PRIs. We will examine their sources of finance in the next unit, 3.2 Objectives. After studying this unit, you should be able to describe the role of panchayats as envisaged under the Constitution, analyze the role played by panchayats in implementing governmental schemes in furtherance of social justice and economic development goals, and explain the process of activity mapping and its role in devolution of powers. 3.3 Constitutional Provisions. Article 243G of the Constitution enunciates the powers, authority and responsibilities of the panchayats. The powers and responsibilities of panchayats are to be exercised along the 29 items mentioned in 11th schedule of the Constitution. Article 243G states that states may endow the panchayats with such powers and authority as they may think necessary in order for them to function as institutions of local self-governance. Control may be retained by the state government in the form of conditions for formulation of social and economic plans and implementation of schemes of economic development and social justice. The Karnataka and West Bengal state legislations are the few states which have the distinction of having devolved powers in all the 29 fields mentioned in the 11th schedule. The 29 heads under which power can be devolved by states are agriculture, including agricultural extension, land improvement, implementation of land reforms, land consolidation and soil conservation, minor irrigation, water management and watershed development, animal husbandry, dairying and poultry, fisheries, social forestry and farm forestry. Minor forest produce, small-scale industries, including food processing industries, khadi, village and cottage industries, rural housing, drinking water, fuel and fodder, roads, culverts, bridges, ferries, waterways and other means of communication. Rural electrification, including distribution of electricity, non-conventional energy sources, poverty alleviation program, education, including primary and secondary schools, technical training and vocational education, adult and non-formal education, libraries, cultural activities, markets and fairs, health and sanitation, including hospitals, primary health centers and dispensaries, family welfare. women and child development, social welfare, including welfare of the handicapped and mentally retarded, welfare of the weaker sections, and in particular, of the scheduled cases and the scheduled tribes, public distribution system, maintenance of community assets. It is important to note that the article, while empowering state governments to devolve powers to PRIs, uses the word may as opposed to shall. The use of the recommendatory word may has been used for the specific purpose of giving state governments the freedom to decide the important issues in their states and accordingly devolve powers and responsibilities to PRIs. However, if power is devolved under all the 29 heads, it has the potential to ensure that people are directly involved in issues critical to them by making PRIs closest to them responsible for the issues that confront them. 3.4 State legislations vis-a-vis constitutional provisions. Typically, a state would have a Panchayati Raj department with a secretary from the state bureaucracy and other staff attached to it. The tasks involved in the administration of panchayats include demarcating newer boundaries for gram sabhas, establishing new gram panchayats, forming a via media between other government agencies, departments whose functions have been devolved to PRIs, and providing infrastructure, staff and training facilities to the PRIs. However, in the absence of effective devolution of funds and functionaries, the PRIs are unable to take on any activity on a major scale or undertake long-term planning. This is the situation in a number of states. However, some states have taken steps for the effective devolution of powers to panchayats, which we will discuss in this section. Many states, e.g. West Bengal and Tamil Nadu, have had localized governing structures since the later part of the 19th century under British rule. Most states have legislations dating back to the late 1950s incorporating recommendations of the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee, 1957, on the need to set up democratic decentralized governing structures in 3 tiers with universal adult suffrage. These states brought about necessary amendments in their Panchayat legislations in consonance with the 73rd Amendment Act to comply with the requirements in Part IXA with regard to representation of SCs, STs and women, Panchayat elections and finances, etc. Apart from complying with the mandatory requirements of Part IXA of the Constitution, it is up to the states to design their legislations and policies according to the local needs and circumstances. For example, the Himachal Pradesh Panchayati Raj Act, 1994 addresses PESA compliance of panchayats in scheduled areas in the state by including provisions for consultation before land acquisition and grant of mining licenses and ownership over minor forest produce. Furthermore, state panchayat legislations and rules spell out the relationship between panchayats at various levels, terms of relationships of panchayats with citizens under their jurisdiction and with other village, district-level government officials. For example, the Himachal Pradesh 1994 Act spells out some powers to impose a fine for breach of panchayat orders pertaining to administration of its responsibilities within its jurisdiction. The state of Karnataka has achieved the distinction of having devolved funds and functionaries along all 29 heads of the 11th schedule. The Karnataka Act of 1983 set up a strong legal framework establishing 3 tiers of panchayats: Grama Panchayat, Taluk Panchayat and Jilla Panchayat. This framework has been further strengthened under the Karnataka Panchayati Raj Act, 1993. The state government has taken special measures to empower panchayats to handle the responsibilities vested in them by law. Freedom has been given to PRIs to form joint committees among themselves to pursue common objectives. The state set up a working group on decentralization, which examined the activity mapping matrix. We will discuss activity mapping later in this unit. Broadly, the activity mapping positions the Jilla and Taluk Panchayat as planners, facilitators and owners of common executive machinery, Gram Panchayats as local providers of services and Gram and Ward Sabhas as instruments of accountability. Karnataka has provided for a social audit named Panchayat Jamabandi through rules framed under the Act. This is expected to be conducted every year around October. The Panchayat Jamabandi rules now take into account the constitution of Ward Sabhas also. However, the quality of Panchayat Jamabandi continues to be uneven. The example of Panchayati Raj in West Bengal is noteworthy, as the state had a strong three-tier elected local self-governing institutions with devolution of functions along all 29 heads much before the 73rd Amendment came about. The West Bengal Jilla Parishads Act 1963 introduced a four-tier structure consisting of Jilla Parishad, Anchalik Parishad, Anchal Panchayat and Gram Panchayat in the state. The West Bengal Panchayat Act 1973 paved the way for introducing a three-tier system with Jilla Parishad at the district level, Panchayati Samiti at the block level and Gram Panchayat at the Anchal cluster of villages level. The first Panchayat election was held under the Act in June 1978, and since then, Panchayat general elections have been held in 1983, 1988, 1993, 1998 and 2003. Apart from devolving funds and functionaries to the Panchayats at all three levels, the state government has also linked various categories of bureaucrats to the functions of Panchayats. In case of the Odisha government, a detailed order regarding devolution of functionaries to the Panchayati Raj institutions was issued in 2003, under which district-level officers, block-level officers and village-level functionaries of 11 departments are made accountable to the Jilla Parishad, Panchayat Samiti and Gram Panchayat respectively for implementation of the subjects schemes transferred to the PRIs. Although they continue as employees of the respective departments, 3.5 interrelation of the three tiers of Panchayats and government agencies, the Panchayats, in the discharge of a large number of their functions, seem to be dependent for technical advice, funds and infrastructure on the state government. Hence, the autonomy with which a Panchayati Raj institution can formulate its plans will be affected by its dependence on government agencies and officials. We will now see the relationship of Panchayats at all the three levels with other government agencies using the illustrations of the NREGA programs and devolution of powers and functions to Panchayats in the state of West Bengal. Various governmental programs, e.g. NREGA programs of employment, generation, watershed management programs, etc., require the participation and cooperation of Panchayats for their implementation. The Panchayats, at all three levels, are in charge of planning and implementation of schemes under the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. They are assisted in this function by the district program coordinator for a program being executed under the Act. The Gram Panchayat, under the Act, has to identify projects in a particular Gram Panchayat area to be undertaken under an NREGA scheme as per the recommendations of the Gram Sabhas and Ward Sabhas. It is the responsibility of the state government to make available necessary program coordinators and other staff to the Gram Panchayat for assistance in implementation of the schemes under the NREGA. The West Bengal Public Health Department uses the Gram Panchayat as the monitoring unit for implementing the public health initiative and maintaining data and records for each Gram Panchayat. The West Bengal government has also vested the responsibility of running primary education centers, Shishu, Shiksha Kandras, on the Gram Panchayat for taking care of education needs of at least 20 children who do not have access to primary school. Upper primary education programs on the same lines as the SSK, called the Madhyamik Shiksha, Karmashuchi, have also been running at the Gram Panchayat level. In West Bengal, a cadre of functionaries have been designated for implementing the functions devolved. The Forest Department has designated district forest officers at the Jilla Parishad. The post of District Land and Land Reforms Officer has been redesignated as District Land and Land Reforms Officer and ex officio Additional Executive Officer, Land Reforms, Jilla Parishad, to carry on select notified functions in collaboration with Panchayats. For more effective implementation of the targeted public distribution system, poverty alleviation programs and other welfare schemes like BPL, Midday Meal Scheme and Sampurna Grameen Rozgar Yojana, SGRY, officials related to these schemes have been placed at the services of the Panchayat, Samiti and the Jilla Parishad. Increasingly, a number of states are using Panchayats as implementing bodies for government schemes. In this context, new strategies are required to make Panchayats capable of functioning as self-governing institutions and not merely as grassroots implementing agencies. 3.6 Devolution of functions and activity mapping. The generally prevalent view today is that after the 73rd Amendment, Panchayats have been superimposed on the prevailing administrative system without it undergoing any structural changes. The line departments continue to carry out the subjects mentioned in the 11th schedule, and the centrally sponsored schemes, CSS, are implemented by the central government through their respective departments. The collector, the BDO and the Gram Sevak carry on at their respective levels, many a time without any reference to the Panchayati Raj institutions. Hence today, Panchayats function as development agencies and not as institutions of local government under the list of functions of Panchayats mentioned in the 11th schedule. It is seen that all 29 subjects are handled by more than a dozen ministries and departments of the central government. By and large, only inconsequential functions such as monitoring and supervision are transferred to the Panchayats. Even these functions are essentially handled by the line department functionaries, over whom the Panchayats have no control. It has been seen that Panchayats are merely engaged in rendering assistance to line departments in implementation of activities and schemes such as awareness building, social mobilization for vaccination, for example, the Pulse Polio program, beneficiary selection for welfare programs, or being engaged in construction work under the Jawahar Rozgar Yojana (JRY) program and the recently introduced National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme (NREGS) program. This is far from devolution, as the implementation of a program is conceived and designed at a higher level of the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, MoPR, responded to this situation by introducing activity mapping, which entails breaking each of the 29 subjects into as many activities as possible and assigning them to the Panchayats at different levels. The ministry underscored the fact that the key objective of Article 243G of the Constitution is to ensure that Panchayats at all levels function as institutions of self-governance rather than as implementing agencies. This is to be done through devolution of functions, funds and functionaries, which must eventually comprise the entire range of subjects in the 11th schedule. Devolving a large number of functions does not necessarily signify a greater extent of devolution. Though states may assign responsibilities to local governments, they often leave the performance of key activities necessary to deliver such devolved services with state line agencies. There is often little rational thinking concerning which of the disaggregated activities ought to be devolved based on considerations of economies of scale, efficiency, capacity, enforceability, and proximity. This has led to most devolved subjects ending up in a kind of concurrent list with different tiers of government sharing responsibility, which seriously undermines accountability. Consequently, the extent of devolution can vastly differ even when a function is devolved formally. To improve this position, MOPR found that it is essential to undertake activity mapping relating to devolved functions with a view to attributing each activity to the appropriate level of panchayat, keeping in mind the principle of subsidiarity. This is meant to answer to specific questions: which level of government will be responsible for what, and what arrangements between governments are likely to work for better service delivery. These questions are relevant for a number of sectors that have been devolved to panchayats, especially a. Rural education, basic, continuing and literacy. B. Rural health, curative, immunization, nutrition, prenatal care, etc. C. The primary sector, agriculture, fishery, horticulture, forestry, sericulture, animal husbandry, watershed management. D. Water and sanitation, and E. Anti-poverty programs, SGSY and SGRY. Activity mapping can become a trigger for ensuring that panchayats are on a sound footing. When panchayats are assigned clear tasks with devolution of funds and made accountable for the performance of these newly assigned responsibilities, they have a big incentive to demand the capacity required for effective performance. Empowered panchayats with clear roles assigned through activity mapping would begin to also demand the staff required for effective performance. Therefore, activity mapping can spur appropriate placement of functionaries for better service delivery. The central government can also have a significant influence on the devolution of functions and funds upon panchayats because of the large fiscal transfers to states in the functional domain of the panchayats, mainly through centrally sponsored schemes, CSSs, central schemes, and additional central assistance, ACAs. Capacity building. There is an acute need to build capacities of not only the elected representatives of the PRIs, but also of all the members of the Gram Sabha so as to enable them to fulfill the vision of decentralized governance. This requires capacity building in areas of statutory and legal implications, process of budgeting, resource allocation and its management, decentralized planning, village-level data management, revenue generation, general administration, and e-governance. There is also a need for elected members to get exposure to the trends and developments taking place in different sectors. This could be achieved through visits to departments and research institutions. Apart from the fact that there exist various hindrances in terms of the devolution of powers like lack of political will, these could be gradually overcome if the local population is aware of its rights and responsibilities and its representatives are empowered enough to lobby for their rights. Capacity building through workshops, etc., is an important aspect of local self-governance and for the achievement of the goal of social justice. 3.7 Summary. Let us now sum up the important points discussed in this unit. Article 243G of the Constitution enunciates the powers, authority and responsibilities of the panchayats. The powers and responsibilities of panchayats are to be exercised along the 29 items mentioned in 11th Schedule of the Constitution. States may devolve such powers and authority as they may think necessary. Many states have not devolved funds and powers to panchayats, and in the absence of effective devolution of funds and functionaries, the PRIs are unable to take on any activity on a major scale or undertake long-term planning. We discussed the steps taken by some states for the effective devolution of powers to panchayats. We discussed the relationship of panchayats at all the three levels with other government agencies using the illustrations of the Narega programs and devolution of powers and functions to panchayats in the state of West Bengal. All 29 subjects in the 11th schedule are handled by more than a dozen ministries and departments of the central government. By and large, only inconsequential functions such as monitoring and supervision are transferred to the panchayats. The MoPR has introduced activity mapping to address this situation, which entails breaking each of the 29 subjects into as many activities as possible and assigning them to the panchayats at different levels. The key objective of Article 243G of the Constitution is to ensure that panchayats at all levels function as institutions of self-governance rather than as implementing agencies. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.